It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming.
Bruce with We Are Change Colorado here, and we're together at United We Stand Festival in Los Angeles, California. It's been a great experience so far. The festival's going on later today, and we're here with Kimberly and Foster Gamble, makers of Thrive, one of the most empowering and inspiring movies of all time. Documentary film came out in 2011, was it?
Yeah.
Correct? And it really, it's just inspired many people to take action in their life. And so we're here. If you could give us a little brief description of the different topics. So many topics were covered in Thrive, but if you could kind of just let people know just a couple of the main topics that you guys go over, and I'll start out with you, Foster.
Well, it's a very solutions-oriented film, even though we talk about a lot of problems. So what we do first in Thrive is we lay out the pattern for sustainable systems, because the universe, as far as we can tell, has one pattern at all scales, and that's called the torus, this toroidal vortex. So we go into that in ancient cultures, its applications in free energy, and its role as a template, as a blueprint for sustainable systems at every level. And then when we get to the free energy part of it and start talking about the fact that free, clean, abundant energy has been consistently suppressed, we ask the question, how come? You know, who would do that? So then we follow that upstream, and we basically follow the money. And we've done it in all areas, but in the film we pick about 4 areas: in education, in media, and medicine, and so forth. And then finally money itself. And every time you follow the money up to the spring, the root of the spring of that particular area, it seems it's the same people, the same banking families, and that's no coincidence. So once we get the money scam and explain that, then we look at, okay, well, what's their agenda? If they have this much power and control, how come we're in this dire situation? What's their agenda? So the next part of the film is the global domination agenda, and we show how that's being played out in every single area, where the resources get sucked up to the top and the domination and control come down, and we're on the brink of destroying life as we know it. Then we move into the final chapter, which is solutions that are commensurate to that problem. And that's really what the Thrive movement is all about.
Yeah, I'll just add that our intention was really to lay out the minimum sufficient understanding that we felt was needed for people to be effective in their solutions, because so many people care and want to do something, but if they're not informed about the true nature of the obstacle, then their efforts aren't going to be as effective. So our point was to sort of lay that out, and we always said that the movie was really a trailer for the website, and that the website was a tool for the movement. So that's how we've laid it out, and since 11/11/11, when it was released, it's now in 27 languages and has been seen by over 23 million people. And so we get to hear, we're in this fabulous position to be able to hear from people all over the world, and who I believe now, we really want to shift the conversation, and I believe that we've had a role in doing that. So we're actually quite inspired and empowered ourselves.
It is so inspiring. I had forgotten that you had released it on 11/11/11. A good friend of ours in Colorado released her album Reverse Hypnosis, which is just exactly in alignment. Her name's Elias Clay. Special shout out to her. But what event woke you up? What event pushed you to take action and for this cause and for this movement? And then I do want to thank you for the website and your recent article about transhumanism. Everyone should check out. That was a great read. And so what issue, if you could pin it to one thing, each of you, what was the thing that really inspires you to be who you are?
Well, I went to UC Berkeley in the 60s. And so I intentionally went there actually to learn civil disobedience, nonviolent non-participation, which was something that we were trained in at the time in our work to stop the war. And so I think that what woke me up was the feeling of empowerment that we have, both as part of the anti-war movement and the women's movement and all of that. What I found out was how important the relationship between our inner lives and our outer actions is. And really that this blend of spirituality and activism is something that I'm seeing in all these years of activism. I'm finally seeing this coming together. And in fact, I think We Are Change is a wonderful example of the kind of bold clarity and outer activism that results from it. So speaking of a shout out, yay, We Are Change.
And thank you, Luke.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Luke. And so I'm seeing that because I really believe that the integration, like when we quiet the noise and listen and receive the guidance that is available to us spiritually and multidimensionally and all the rest, and then act from that place, then our actions have integrity and they build unity rather than divide, and that clearly that's what's needed in these times, and I believe it's what's happening.
Well, for me, the first wake-up call, as I describe in Thrive, was when my teachers in elementary school were telling me to get under the desk while there was an air raid siren going on, because this was going to protect me from the nuclear blast. That was the point at which I decided the adults probably don't know what the hell is going on or what to do about it. And then when I graduated from college also, I had a low draft number, and I couldn't figure out who these people were who were telling me to go across the other side of the world and kill innocent people for no reason that I could understand. So that's when I really woke up to that this whole issue of freedom and nonviolence is something that affects all of us. Now, I was telling Luke last night when I saw him that he's been a real role model for me. Obviously, we've taken some risky steps in telling the truth in the world, as all of you do. And sometimes when something's really edgy, I find myself saying, okay, well, what would Luke do? And that helps me go for it. I really enjoyed the sense of humor and the boldness with which you all are taking on issues and confronting people, because fundamentally the key issue to me is freedom and integrity. And when people are allowed to be free, not free to hurt anyone else or to violate anyone else or to cheat, commit fraud, counterfeit, whatever it is, but free to express themselves in a nonviolent, non-harmful way, then the prosperity, the creativity, the security is just off the charts throughout history. And that's the lesson I think that we're needing to get now. So it brings the question up for each one of us: what is your allegiance to? Is it to your religion? Is it to your nation state? Is it to the laws when the laws are immoral? And that's one thing I love about what you guys do, is you're looking for the truth and confronting people about their moral stand, whether or not they're lying, whether or not they're killing people. And because I think unless we understand that, unless we understand what we call the non-aggression principle, our chances of making it as a species are slim if we don't wake up to that. There's not some political party who's stealing people's money through taxes and going off and spending it to subsidize war and GMOs and all that. There's no political party that's going to save us. It's actually a matter of each one of us finding our allegiance to the truth within ourselves, our own inner guidance, and ultimately to letting everyone be free. So that's my main guiding principle that's come out of me waking up and then finally getting active. And it works. It can be a long, arduous process, but in the end, it always works.
I have to add, well, two things. An anecdote. One of the things that really started me out was I was looking at a model car that Santa Claus gave me, and it said "Made in Japan," and I said, "Well, Japan's not the North Pole." And so that was one thing that really started me off thinking, "Wait a minute, I'm being lied to here. I'm being lied to." And another anecdote too is I think you came up.
Spoiler alert for you young people watching.
Sorry, yeah. I think I really, this "what would Luke do?" I think that's going to be the Twitter hashtag of the year right there. What would Luke do? Get in Kissinger's face if you see him. But if there was one issue that we could unify and unite on as the people of the world, what could we unite on? One issue. What would that issue be for you?
For me, it would be transcending politics and the mirage of a two-party system and the puppet show that it really is, and to actually transcend politics with the principle of non-violation, because it's the one thing that everybody agrees to, is that they don't want to be violated against their will. And I believe that when we go for that and we develop our policies and our our systems of organizing that people voluntarily participate in, that everything will change, and that all of the problems that we're currently experiencing are the result of a core violation that's going on that begins actually with an authoritarian government having authority that as individuals people wouldn't have. And I think that one of the things that I've learned is that it's, you know, the reason I love this connection between the spirituality and activism is that I believe our worldviews have to be stripped down and rebuilt, and that when we have an identity that's bigger than our ideas, then we're better able to do that. And I believe that that's as a core spiritual being that we can do it. So this notion of transcending politics with principles is one that I actually find everybody wants to do it. It's just that the stripping down process of that identity is painful, and we need each other to support each other in the process. And I think for me, seeing people like Luke and you and We Are Change and these bold, generous activists is that you find out and you get to see the liberation that comes on the other side of finding your truth and acting in integrity with this principle, rather than trying to hang on to some political persuasion and think that the best of two evils is the best we can do.
Well, for me, the fundamental guiding principle is the wholeness of natural systems. And the torus that I mentioned before is an example of the patterning of that. But if you look at any level, in organic farming, organic polyculture, which is so successful if allowed to be, it's honoring the wholeness of an ecosystem. In an economy is not a top-down, state-controlled, command and control mechanism. It's a process of individual human beings making free, voluntary associations and exchanges. And when we're looking to access energy, if instead of burning coal and crushing atoms and all of the dangerous, violent, macho things that we do to try to access energy, if instead we actually honor this wholeness of how energy flows in this toroidal pattern. I have visited many, many labs where they have free energy devices working, and it gives you as much clean, abundant energy as you want or as you need in a safe way. And the key there is the honoring of the wholeness of a natural system. In writing 100 articles for our website on the critical issues, what we saw again and again was that all the critical issues we're facing are a function of the breakdown of the wholeness of a natural system. So as we as individuals learn to understand the wholeness of a natural system, then all of our solutions are simply a matter of restoring that. And at the human level, the fundamental wholeness is an individual human being, not this concept of a group. If you sacrifice the individual rights for so-called the good of the group, it never works out well. So back to what Kimberly was saying before, for us on the human level, the honoring of the wholeness of the natural system is the non-aggression principle. And with the principles of non-aggression and integrity, those seem to be the answers to every single issue that we're facing.
Really awesome, powerful stuff here. Now, my final question is, how can we inspire people to guide their actions with love over fear? Because it's something, a lot of us have come over this information and it makes us depressed. It can make you apathetic, and it makes you just really collapse into the fear. And so how do we step out of that fear and guide our actions with the love?
Well, one of the things that's fortunate is that love trumps fear, ultimately. I think what we've tried to do at thrivemovement.com, one of the things that we do is we have a solutions hub, and it begins with a process. It's a place for people to organize and see how many of us there are who are awake and participating. And I think that's a really important part of it, that I think that the depression and the fear and the apathy happen a lot when we feel isolated. And so to recognize how many people are going through this is really important. And I think the other part of it is to realize, and this is something we build into the solutions model, is that really this integration of inner and outer means that you're only here to do your part. That as you see these overwhelming, huge problems and think, oh my God, I have to take on the whole thing. You don't. You need to do your part in the solution, and it's related to your purpose and your passion. And we even have at thrivemovement.com a place to explore your purpose and to really do this questioning, so that when you come at it with the clarity of who you are and the resilience and the energy that comes from acting in alignment with your purpose. And we've seen it again and again that, we have a room full of people. We just did it recently, where we were in a room full of people concerned about smart meters. And speaking of a shout out, there's a great movie called Take Back Your Power that made by Josh Del Sol that I highly recommend. Yes. So we were in this room full of people concerned about smart meters. And what we realized, as we realize again and again whenever we're in a room full of people concerned about an issue, is that people are actually there concerned about different aspects of it. Some people are concerned about the health hazards, some about the surveillance, some about the invasion of privacy. There's any number of ways. And so if kind of parts of it that get you. And that's true on any issue. So if you find out what is it that really gets you, and then you find out what's the kind of engagement, a level of engagement that suits you. Is it some immediate need intervention, or is it to work on shifting the systems, or is it the consciousness shift that allows it to go like these refinements of what's really the best use of you? When you get it down, then you can find your path of engagement. You can stick with it, not burn out. I feel like one of the things about starting out as an activist in the 60s is that I've really seen a lot of people go by the wayside of burnout. And I think it's because they've tried to take on the whole thing by themselves rather than find out what is in alignment for me to do and act in accord with that. And I know for me, the peace and the energy that I feel doing my part, I love being someone who gets to speak any truth that I want to speak. I do not hold back by political considerations. And that role for me has always been right. It is right. And I'm a systems thinker and a systems gal. So that's the best use of me. I'm not taking on all of the other things that gratefully everyone else, there's a part for all of them. So I'm a long-term testimony to the fact that when you actually do what is yours to do, that it will give you energy and satisfaction in a way that you can transcend the overwhelm and find yourself in a real empowering mode. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, and I want to encourage people to check out the Solutions Hub on our website at thrivemovement.com, because these solutions groups that Kimberly was talking about, there are almost 1,000 of those groups now in 96 countries around the world, and now they have an opportunity to find each other and share lawsuits, petitions, fundraising techniques, flyers, artwork, and so forth. So everybody's not having to recreate the wheel. And all of these groups and all the people in them have agreed to solutions based on principles, not on politics, and to having no violations in their activity. So that comes back to the question of love versus fear to me. First of all, I just want to acknowledge that as human beings, I've never met anyone who doesn't get afraid sometimes. So I think the first key is making friends with fear, because it's built into our system to alert us to potential danger. But then the question is, what do we do once we've sensed the danger? Do we, clamp down on the fear, and that moves it up into sadness, and clamp down on that, it moves up into anger. You clamp down on that, your emotional body disconnects from your physical body, and you go into apathy and depression. And there's an epidemic of that, because people aren't skilled and nurtured in feeling their emotions effectively. So I've come to really value fear. I don't want to hang out there long, but I want to really listen to it and hear what it's telling me to be alert to. And then for me, love is much more than just, I used to love this person, but I don't anymore. And for 15 years, I taught the nonviolent martial art of Aikido. And Aikido in Japanese means the way of merging with, or coming together, or being in love with universal life energy. And so I came to understand the capital L love as really a state of realizing our oneness and connectedness with everything. And from that place, you can be much more attentive to what's going on in your reality, and therefore better protecting yourself and your loved ones. You can be much more attuned to intuition, so that you can be guided by your own inner voice. And also in your activities, you're going to be much more apt to treat people and the environment and other species well, because in that state of love, you actually realize that you are one with all of them. That's the interconnectedness. That's the I, the love in the Japanese term Aikido. So I think they can actually go forward hand in hand. And the more we make friends with fear, the more we experience love. And I'm actually curious to hear more stories at some point from you guys. I imagine you chasing, Henry Kissinger and Dick Cheney and Bill Clinton around with a microphone. There's got to be some heart thumping going on there. But there's something that you have an allegiance to, which is bigger than that fear. And I think that's the love of the soul, even of that person, who also would, in an ideal state, want the truth, want freedom, want to actually treat people kindly. So that's my reflection on it.
Yeah, I want to say one thing as a guiding principle I have on the board on my wall of my office. It says, I'm a friend of your soul and an enemy of your project. And that has really empowered me to be bold in working to stop projects that I find to be utterly destructive, and at the same time not lose the connection, the soul connection that that really fear and love are part of the same thing. That I'm willing to experience personal fear in order to actually act out a greater love.
The most powerful thing about love is finding that love for yourself. And not seeking it through some other things, people, whatnot, is to truly dig deep and find your happiness from within, and then all your actions will then flow downhill from love. And so I do want to invite you. This hasn't gone out to the interwebs yet, but we're planning an event at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. It's called One Becoming One: Switching from Fear to Love. Eric Lawyer, the former firefighter who spoke out on 9/11, Firefighters for 9/11 Truth. Eric Lawyer has changed over. He's switched from fear to love, and his new website's onebecoming1.org. So we're going to invite you to come participate, or just to come and see what we're doing out in Colorado. It's November 22nd, and look for more info on that coming up. And if there's any other comments, otherwise this has been one hell of an interview. I really appreciate everybody for watching. WACC TV on YouTube, wearechangecolorado.org, and make sure to check out the thrivemovement.com, the solutions page. All the articles coming through. Network with people in your own area through the Thrive website, through the wearechange.org website. Do your best, and remember that no matter what, as long as you're taking an action and in doing what you can, it doesn't have to be much, but just having that intention of taking action, that's what it's all about. Thank you.